What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Chasing Ghosts. This is the video series where I talk about those hard to find, those impossible to find comics, those things you just don't see up on the wall that you got to hunt, you got to track down, you got to dig, you got to do some research, you got to get lucky in a lot of cases to find some of these tough books. Hopefully you're enjoying this series as well as everything else here on the channel. Yes, I am that guy who's wearing this shirt of the show that he is doing because I like my stuff. So if you guys like the merch, go check it out on the links below. Check out all the different options that we have. We got a lot of fun stuff. But the T Public site, apart from the stuff that's mine, that's where I buy a lot of the weird shirts you see that I wear on this show. So that's where I do a lot of my t-shirt shopping because they got a lot of fun stuff. Again, apart my self-promotion aside, there's a lot of good stuff on that site. So when they have their sales, which are often, and they have t-shirts for like 13, 14 bucks, that's when I go and buy because 13 bucks for a t-shirt's not bad. Plugs aside, let's get into what books that we're going to have for you this week. Hopefully you're enjoying this series as well as everything else here on Rennavision. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Please like, subscribe, hit the alert button so you don't miss anything. Keep telling your friends so we can keep growing the channel. Come back for the live shows on Wednesdays and Sundays and join the chat because we have a hell of a good time going through a lot of pop culture, Star Wars, comics, movies, all that fun stuff. And we just like having fun. Like that's the reason why I do this. I'm enjoying doing this. Hopefully you're enjoying watching this stuff and come engage, take part. And if you want to know what ghosts potentially I have for you this week, just hang on for a few seconds because I do have quite a few to go through this week. So hang on for a few seconds after the intro and I'll be right back with this week's picks. All right, so as I kind of teased there in the open, I do have a lot of books this week, more so than usual. I think I went closer to 15 because there's a couple of series where I didn't want to just pick and choose one or two, so I covered a couple books. So hopefully you don't mind that too much, but let's just take a look at what we got this week. And we are going to start with a book that I actually saw on IG this week that caught my eye, and I was like, you know what? That's a good book. Let me take a look into this because I think that's going to be a toughie. And the book that I'm talking about came from AB Comics. Check out the Instagram there. Give them a follow. This 1 in 25 is a tough book because after I saw this, I was like, I don't know this book. Let me go look into it. And I did look into it. And guess what? This is a tough book. So keep an eye out for this one. Like I said, I pull information from wherever I find it. And when I see it from somewhere, I'm going to give credit to where credit is due and credit to AB Comics for pointing this book out to the community because I think this is a good one to keep an eye out for. Now, this is a 1 in 25 from September of 2015. We're going to start here. Ghost Racers number 4. This is part of that Secret Wars miniseries when they had all of those miniseries that were running, kind of concurrent with the Secret Wars big event that was going on. There's a lot of miniseries. A lot got lost in the shuffle. So some of these don't have very high print runs. And this is one of them that kind of, I think, got ignored and pushed to the wayside. By the time this series finished, and this is the last issue, only 17,878 potential copies of the regular. So if you do that 1 in 25 math, there's only about 715 of the variant out there, potentially. Again, these are estimated numbers, nothing concrete, but I wouldn't say that that's too far off the mark because when you take a look at all the information, it kind of tells a story. In the census, we got 198, and that's all that's currently in the CGC census for this particular book. 1. We look at what's sold recently, and part of why AB Comics had noted this, they noted that the sale had just occurred April 3rd, 150 bucks, $150 raw for this book in April. Very interesting. No other sales that I could find over the last 3 months, just that one. And then when I went to go look at what copies we're going for online, well, I couldn't find any. So there were no copies out there. No copies to be found. So again, this looks like it's one of those tough books to find. So be mindful of it. Now, looking into issue 4, obviously, it got me thinking. I like that this one has that kind of throwback to that other run. I think Clayton Crane did the covers with that. You can see the title, the way the title is done, that Ghost Rider series. Now, this is the female Ghost Rider, Alessandra or something or other. I can't remember her name, but that's who's on the cover of this. But it seems like they did sort of homages to different eras of Ghost Rider on the 1 in 25. So this kind of came in that kind of Garth Ennis, Clayton Crane kind of time, that Trail of Tears like type covers, because that's where the again the trade dress is looking like to me. But this was issue 4. I went backwards and looked at issue 3, and we get this kind of classic, more of the old school Johnny Blaze, Daredevil, Evil Knievel kind of vibe. I dig this. I dig these bright colors. I think this thing is really cool, and I'm now looking for this one. This issue 3, also a 1 in 25. This one came out the month before, August 2015, obviously. And this one had a little bit more of a higher print run, by not much, only about 20,000. So the incentive is a little bit higher at 800 instead of 7 whatever. 800 potential for this incentive. So still not a very high number at all. Still pretty low, considering this 1 in 25 is not a heavily ordered book. But this thing is pretty cool. Now, moving on to the census. The census has this thing at only having 3 copies. The other one had 1. This has 3. So 3 copies of this one with 2 9/8 and a single 9/6, and that's it for this Ghost Racers number 3, the 1 in 25. Prices on this book have been going for about $40, the best offer March 15th, and on March 11th, somebody stole one for $8. That's the only way I could say it. $8. Oh man, if I had been aware of this book then, buy it now as well. It wasn't like an auction that went to too cheap. Buy it now for $8. Oh, so jealous. I'm so jealous. I would love to have bought this book for $8, but what are you going to do? So now I'm looking for it. There are no copies out there now for $8. In fact, there's only 1 copy out there right now, and it's asking for $100. I'm not as eager to go and throw $100 at this yet as I would be 8. Just different levels, but man, $8. Whoever that is, congratulations. That was a great pickup because, like I said, I kind of dig this. I like the colors on this thing, and I'm going to be continue to look for it. Continue to look for it. Now there is again 1 in 25s for issues 2 and 1, but I'm not covering them here because there were multiple copies of them, and they were actually much cheaper, closer to ratio kind of type prices. Issue 1 had like the Old West Ghost Rider on the cover, and then issue 2 had more of the 90s Danny Ketch style Ghost Rider there, but still pretty cool books, but not really fitting the criteria of what I'm trying to do with the ghosts, because there are plenty out there for those ones. So first 2 issues in the series, they were obviously printed heavier, so not surprised by that. But issues 3 and 4, very tough. Another tough one is another series that came out during that Secret Wars time frame, and this is Age of Ultron versus Zombies number 3. There weren't even incentives for all of the issues of this series, but issue 3 has this Francavilla cover that there's just something about it that just grabs me. I just really dig this. I don't know what it is about it, just the eyeballs or whatever. I really like this, and I really kind of want this. I do not have this, so I am looking for one now. This is a 1 in 25 that also came out same month as the last book, August 2015, because it's at issue 3. Again, all those minis were kind of running at the same time during Secret Wars, so not surprising it came out the same month. This one has a potential 36,000 plus copies, so the incentive should have more out there with 1,400 copies plus 1,455 estimated. But you know what? The census doesn't have any. There were none in the census for this. Surprising. I think there was like 1 or 2 copies of the regular, but not the incentive. Why anybody would grade the regular, I don't know. But no copies of this in the census. And what sold? Well, there was only 1. It was a best offer on $16. Somebody got this book for $12 on April 11th. So had I been looking into this last week, as opposed to the last couple of days, maybe I could have bought that copy. I'm so mad because I would love to pay $12 for this. $12 all day on this because, like I said, I really dig this. But there are no copies to be had. No copies for me to buy right now. So I don't know where the market could go on this one. I don't know if this is going to be a continually cheap book and it's just can't find any right now. Maybe it's just bad timing because, again, there's potentially 1,400 copies. There's just none out there right now. And the last one sold for a measly half ratio at $12. So who knows what this thing could be? This thing could be, the next copy can come up and they could ask $150 like the Ghost Racers. And if somebody bought it for that, would you bat an eye? I probably wouldn't. Things are wildly inconsistent with this market these days. It's all about supply and demand. And right now, I have a demand and there's no supply. So I don't know what I would pay for this thing until I were to see it. But that said, I'm looking for it because, like I said, I just dig it. That's just a personal thing. Just a personal thing with this one. Now, up next, I got another Marvel book. I did a few Marvels to start here. We're going to look at World of Wakanda #3. I thought this was a 1 in 25. I kept thinking it was 1 in 25, but then everything I saw said this is actually a 1 in 50. It's like, why would they have a 1 in 50 on issue 3 of this title, January 2017? I mean, the overall print run was only about 25,000, so why are they doing 1 in 50? But they did apparently. So there's only about 500 copies of this thing out there. So, man, only 500 copies. We know we're getting a Wakanda series of some sort. I think it's coming to Disney Plus, maybe like a TV show sort of thing, maybe a mini. I don't know exactly what the project's going to be. There's not a lot of information out there yet. We just know that we're getting some sort of Wakandan series out there. I don't know if it'll be focused on the Dora Milaje or what, but we do know that there's a lot of potential for characters because this is exploring the world of Wakanda. So there's a lot of potential for this series to be mined, I think, for characters and some stories to be told potentially in that series. So I don't know. Definitely interesting. So I would keep an eye. There's only a 6-issue series total for the world of Wakanda. So just keep an eye on that as well. Only a couple of copies in the sense it looks like there's a 9.8 and a 9.4, but this thing cannot be up to date. The reason why this thing cannot be up to date is because there is a 9.6. When I was doing this, researching this earlier today, I was looking into this, and it just so happened there was an auction going for a 9.6, and it was only asking $35 pounds, 35 pounds, I should say, not USD. 35 pounds is the opening bid. And you can see here with that green, yeah, I bid on it because I said, why not? It's Saturday afternoon, and I'm doing research. $35 for a 9.6 of a potentially only 500 copy, 1 in 50. Yeah, well, we'll take a shot. Well, as what happened, what sold recently? That sold recently. So I bought the copy that was up there recently, and it cost me 35 pounds, which equates to about $45 USD. So when you factor in the fact that it's going to cost me 30 bucks to grade this myself, that's really not that much to me. I think I got this for a pretty good price for a 1 in 50 that is it's hard to find as this one actually is because outside of that copy, there is only one other one, and it's a raw asking 65 bucks. So I think I did all right just to grab the 9.6. I'm usually not a purchaser of 9.6, but I've become more open to them if the price is right. And 35 pounds seemed like a good price to me. So it is what it is. But again, you can see here, not a lot of copies of this one. And it's not like I bought that thing just so I can try to resell it. I just bought it because I kind of liked it. And I think it might go somewhere. So I'm just going to put it in my collection. It was cheap enough. Why not? So that all said, that's World of Wakanda 3. I've had these next couple of books on my to-do list for a while. I've had the Red Hood books and these Occupy Avengers. Just been meaning to do them because these again just little forgotten titles, things that nobody's talking about, nobody reads, and nobody's out there really hunting. Hey, I'm the biggest Red Wolf fan out there. So these are things that are just not well publicized, I guess you would say. And I did do the Tedesco Red Wolf a couple of months back now, maybe, but I didn't do the others in that series. But I do have the Occupy Avengers because I just wanted to look at through them. They have some interesting covers here, like right here, this Michael Cho cover for issue 1, Clint Barton and Red Wolf. Basically, they're going on a road trip thing. It's a pretty cool little story. I mean, it's on the smaller side. It's not huge events, not world-ending type stuff, but this is a 1 in 25 that came out in November 2016. Like I said, it's just got a different vibe to it, different little cover to it, like something I could see them doing, like a little Disney Plus series. Not that I think Jeremy Renner's going to keep doing Disney Plus. So I'm not saying we're going to get a Red Wolf Hawkeye team up where they're cruising across country. I'm not saying that that's going to happen. I'm just saying, well, it could. Like this is the kind of material that's easily adaptable into something like that. But irregardless of all that, point of why I always like looking at this book is because it's got a print run of only about 38,000. So the incentive still has a decent 1,500 copies. But even with those 1,500 copies, there's only one in the census right now, 198. So not a lot of people grading this thing. Why? Because this thing's just darn cheap. Copy sales right now, $9, $5 for 1 in 25. And that's why I think I also purchased mine is in that kind of like $5 range. I'm always interested in buying like $5 cover price 1 in 25s, especially in this time frame, just because you never know what's going to happen with them. It can't go wrong at that price. Personally, that's what I think. I mean, even if I just keep it tucked away in a box forever and it never goes anywhere, well, it cost me $5. So you keep an eye out for these as well. But even if you wanted to go buy what's on the market, Well, it's not going to cost you much more than that. They're only about 11 bucks, 12 bucks. But there's a lot of copies out there right now. I shouldn't say a lot. There's well, maybe a 10. There's like under 10, I think, when I was looking at it, but still more than I wanted to list here and more than normal for what we do for ghosts. But I had this on my to-do list for a while. I think at one time it might have been harder to find, even at those cheap prices. But right now, still a pretty cheap book, and you do have some copies out there if you're interested. But it doesn't look like this one's going to cut the mustard to actually make the ghost part of our list. But let's take a look at the others in the series because, like I said, there's only a couple more. Issue 2, which I also kind of like. I kind of dig this look, just this this stretch of road, just behind them, the silhouette, the huge open sky. 1 in 25 again on this one. This was December 2016. Pretty cool book. Again, 32,000, just under 33,000 actually. So the incentive's a little less, about 1,300 or so. So we got a few less copies than the last issue 1. But there are none in the census. None of this book. Can't believe nobody got this thing graded. Not only that, nobody's bought one recently either. So none have actually sold in the last 3 months. And when we look at what's actually available for sale, I only found 2, but they're cheap. Just like the last book, they are cheap. 10 bucks, 15 bucks, but they're the only 2 that I could find. So it's a little tougher than issue 1, not only as far as a print run, it's a tiny bit tougher print run wise, but what's actually available copies. There are only these 2, but still very affordable prices if you were so inclined. Like I said, I already bought these for very cheap. I didn't buy multiples. I just bought like a copy a piece of all 3 of these, because if you haven't guessed, that's where we're going next with our last one in this series. Issue 3 also has a 1 in 25, and I got that one too, but it doesn't have the same vibe as these first 2. This is more of like a classic kind of a, fighting pose kind of thing. I don't know, maybe a little bit. But this is again Red Wolf and Hawkeye. Dan Panosian cover. I like Dan Panosian's art. I especially like it on this kind of like lower level crime stuff. I actually made that my pick slots, my indie pick on Back 9 recently. I like Dan Panosian. I think he's underrated. That said, this is a 1 in 25. This one came out in January 2017. This one, again, it's getting tougher because this series, the print run dropped. It had a steep drop here down to about 18,000. So the incentive on this one went from about 1,500 to 1,300 to now 739 for this 1 in 25. So huge drop off, almost got cut in half. And with that, there are also no copies in the census for this one. No copies in the census for issue 2 or 3, which again I found interesting. Just like the last issue, there are also none sold in the last 3 months either. None sold. Huh. But the trick about this one is it's not cheap like the other ones because there are none out there. Not to say that they don't exist. There's just none out there, especially right now. So who knows what this could go for on the market? We have none sold. We have none available. This could have a crazy asking price if one comes to market, or it could be right in the range of the other ones where when one pops up, it's going to pop up for 10 to 15 bucks. I don't know. 10 to 15 bucks for 1 in 25. This tough to find. I might consider it. Even though I do have one, I might consider getting another one. I don't know. Like I said, because this one's a little tougher than the first 2. So this one would make me think a little bit twice if I saw one pop up for cheap. But yeah, that's just me. All right. We're going to move on from these Occupy Avengers. I'm sure it's not the most interesting thing to most of you out there. And we're going to do something that I kind of touched on with one of the books a couple of weeks ago. That's Abe Sapien, that issue 31 that Ben Stein had mentioned before, and Buddy Van Denby had talked about it as well. But in that Abe Sapien series, there's a couple of other incentives. Not many, but there are a couple others that are just kind of mixed in the run, and they are not easy. Issue 8, for one reason or another, had a 1 in 20 incentive. December 2013, this 1 in 20. I think this is Mike McNeil. No, might be a Omen cover. This might be an Omen cover. I think the next one's a Mignola. But this 1 in 20 from December of 2013, only 8,600 total for the regular issue. So that makes this incentive down about 431 copies. 431 potentials out there. If you can find them, because none in the census. This is like this selection of books I picked this week. There's a lot of them that have none in the census, which is really surprising to me. But once I see none in the census, then I'm not surprised when I start seeing the next. Well, what's sold recently? Well, none sold recently. And what's available? Well, none available either. So, I don't know what this book is. I don't know if this book is even out there, really. I haven't seen one. I didn't know about it until I started researching, and then when I looked for it, couldn't find any. So there you go. No copies. No copies available, no copies sold, none in the census. So keep an eye out for this one. Could be a tricky find. Issue 8, the Abe Sapien from Dark Horse. And like as I said, there's another one. The next issue, issue 9, again, for one reason or another, they decided to do another incentive. This is the Mignola cover, which it should be more obvious now that I see it. This is also 1 in 20. This was January of 2014. Again, I don't know why they decided to do incentives at this time, considering again the print run is only 8,500, so the potential incentives are only 425 copies. Not a lot, but this one though, does have two in the census. We've got 298s, and that's it. So we do have two in the census, but even with those two in the census, we still have no copies sold, raw, graded, or otherwise. Nothing sold in the last 3 months, nor were there any on the market when I searched for what was available. Listed for sale. Nothing. So, Abe Sapien is not out there. Nothing but tumbleweeds when I went looking for this book. Either of these two books. So, good luck. Good luck if you go looking for them. Again, if you have any of these books, particularly some of these ones that I've not even seen before, please tag me on Instagram. I'd love to see it. I love seeing it when people have these types of books in their collection. Gives me hope that I will also get lucky and find them myself one day, hopefully without paying an arm and a leg to get obtain them and put them into my collection. But please hit me up on Instagram. Tag me. I don't care if you posted about it 3 years ago. Tag me now. I'd love to see it. So I'm sure plenty of you have done that. Plenty of you guys have done that. And you also give me a lot of books to add to my list as you guys are all looking into this cool stuff, these hard to find books that I find very interesting as well. I love, sharing and just digging into this stuff with you guys. So hopefully you're enjoying this, bit of a ride as well. Now, to wrap us up today, I'm going to go over to DC and talk about a few books that you might not think that they're ghosts, but I don't know, could be tricky. It could be tricky when you talk about books like these. And these are going to be 1 in 10s. I know I've talked about the DC 1 in 10s before, and these are going to be the 1 in 10s for Zatanna. I know everybody knows this run because of the Hughes that finishes it up. Everybody wants those final 2 issues, those Hughes covers. I get it. But don't forget that Brian Boland did 1 in 10s for the first 6. This is his first for issue 1. These Brian Boland covers pretty solid. I'm a Hughes fan, so I will always make that known and just be like, you know what? All right, I will admit I would prefer the Hughes covers to these Boland covers, but that isn't to say that these aren't good covers and these aren't, kind of tough to track down. These are only 1 in 10s, mind you. But if you actually go looking for them, they're not as easy to find as you might think. May 2010 for this one, this 1 in 10. This is issue 1. We're going to do them. There's 6 of them here. We're just going to do them all real quick. This first one, highest print run of all, about 33,000 plus. So you do the quick math. It's a 1 in 10 after all. You're just taking a 0. Just cut off the last digit. So 3369. So there's over 3,000 copies of this. But that's kind of like the store exclusives you buy these days. Like the trade dress store exclusives usually have print runs of about 3,000. Whether they tell you or not, that's usually about the print run that's minimum order. So if there's no print run listed, that's what you're usually looking at from the big guys, the Marvel DCs. That's usually the minimum. So that put that in perspective where this 1 in 10 might be as far as hard, rarity and how hard it is to find. That said, decent 44 copies of the census, much higher than anything we've really had on the list so far today. But still, 24 9/8, 17 9/6s, and a few others. But what's actually sold on the market? We only had a couple sales, but they sell pretty well. $72 with 30 bids at auction. 19 bids got another one up to $118. Both April sales, both recent April sales on the 9th and the 11th. So within the last week or so, 2 copies sold, 70 to $120. So even though this is a 1 in 10, this is still a pretty pricey book and one that you might not think there's that many out there. But there are a few. This particular one does have a few. I did find 4. I found 4. These 4. There's one at auction that's only at $12 right now. There's a 9/6 at $300. There's a raw at $300, and there's another raw at about $105. So those are the 4 that I can come up with looking today. So we're just gonna keep it rolling. As I said, we got 6 to do, so I'm gonna try to do these quickly. Issue 2, pretty cool. Batman, Catwoman in the background, looks like Dr. Light as well. This is also Boland, 1 in 10. This one is from June of 2010, 1 in 10 incentive. This one had a print run tick down a little bit, just under 30. So incentive is about 2,900 thereabouts. What's in the census for this one? Still a solid 32 copies in the census with 1998s, 996s, and then a few others. Had a few sales in this one, but much cheaper than issue 1 on these sales. Well, I shouldn't say much cheaper, a little bit cheaper. 70 bucks, a pair of books. I think it's the regular cover and the incentive cover for $58, and then a best offer for about $47 down below, 47.57. I think it was in Canadian dollars. I think it was like 60 Canadian, so I had to do a currency conversion to give you guys that price, but that's what we're talking about this one. So this one's like 50 to 70. The other one was 70 to 120, 50 to 70. So this one came in a little bit under. That said, there were only 3 copies of this one when I went looking. $100, about $100.94 at auction with a few hours left at the time. That one might even be done by the time I'm actually filming this. Another $100. This is $100 raw, basically, of the asking prices for this one. Still, only the 3 copies up, and that was it. So we're going to move on from issue 2, and we're going to jump on over to, guess what? Issue 3. Yeah, big surprise. Issue 3. Another Bolin cover. Another 1 in 10. It's the next month. There was no lag, no gap in these publishing. So July 2010 on this one. Print and run is, as you might guess, is still ticking down. 27,000, 2,700 on the incentive, as opposed to the 29 of the last one. CGC census also ticking down. 23 copies total for this one, with 16.98s, 5.96s, and then a couple of others. We do have sales. We got 3 sales, and once again, prices coming down a little bit on these, a little cheaper. $30 to $45 is really where these things are landing. But available copies, we did have a few. We had 60, 100, 275 for a 9.8, 165 for a 9.6. So a solid 4 copies out there for this one. So we're going to move on to number 4. Number 4, another Boland, another 1 in 10 next month, August 2010. Print run didn't drop that much, still 27,000, so still about 2,700 in the incentive, just a tiny drop. But the census drops a little bit more, down to 20 total, 14.98s, 6.96s, no others. That's it. So it's just the 20 right there, the 14 and the 6. What's sold on this one? We did have a few sales as well. Again, prices are kind of, I want to say they ticked down $23 for the last copy, 4 bids, but then you look at some of the others. Well, $59 for the 2 issues there, and then $85 for one before then. So prices could be a little bit, it looks like they've come down because these are going reverse, chronological order, but still, pricing can be a little up and down when we look at these things. But this particular one, for whatever reason, issue 4 had a bunch of copies out there. Well, not necessarily a bunch. There's probably like less than 10. I want to say there's maybe like 8 copies, but I only threw these 4 up to give you a range. But all of the asking prices are pretty high on this one. $80, 190 raw, 200 raw. So steep asking prices on this one. And like I said, there were a decent number of copies for whatever reason. There was like a half dozen, like 8, I think. But this was the most plentiful of the group. Not to tease what's coming next with our next 2, but we have 2 more. This one might not make the ghost list, but let's see about the last 2. And this is probably my favorite. I like this one. I know something about the hat. It gives you that painting, the faceless businessman, I think it is, the one with the bowler hat down and the apple, I think, in front of the face. Anyway, this bowling cover for issue 5 is another 1 in 10. Came out September of 2010. Like I said, it's probably my favorite. I would love to grab this one. There are about 25,000 for the estimated print run, so the incentive would only be about 2,500. Still a solid number of copies potentially out there. 2,500 is not a small number. You would think should be able to find this, but 41 copies in the census. This one kind of popped up with the census numbers. More than, a little more than double of our last one. 15.98, 17.96s, and then a few others. And sold copies. Well, a couple copies have sold, and they're decent sales. $108 with 14 bids on April 9th. $200 buy it now on April 3rd. And then you go back to March on 9/6, $295. So decent prices for this one. And I think it's because of the cover. Like I said, I dig it. I like this cover. It's my favorite, probably of the bunch. And it is the one I would look for. And when I went looking for it, well, darn it, came up empty. There's none. So take that for what it is. 2,500 copies potentially out there. They might just all be in people's collections and they like it and they don't want to let it go. Or they're just buried in a box somewhere and nobody knows what they're looking at. Whatever the case, there's none out there for me to buy, let alone to figure out what the price might be if they were out there, except the fact that the last few that sold were 100 to 200 bucks. So this one looks like it's on the pricier side, but I do like it, and I will be keeping an eye out for it just in case. And then we got one more, our last one, issue number 6. The final 1 in 10. This is not the final issue of the series. I think it ran up to 15 or 16. And like I said, Hughes did the last, like close to half dozen, I think. But first half dozen, 1 in 10s. Brian Boland, his last incentive, October 2010. October, fitting month to finish this for Zatanna. Estimated print run about 23,000. So the incentive is about 2,300. What's in the census? Only a measly 13 for this one in the census, with 798s, 596s, and a 94. So only 13 for this one. Definitely a drop from the last 41, I think. And I think the least of the bunch. And what's this sold for? Well, recent sales, $90 on April 6th, then another sale back in February for $75 raw for these two. And what's on the market? Well, we do have one on the market, and the asking price is $200 or best offer. So these last couple seem to be the pricier of the bunch. I mean, issue 1 was pretty pricey too, but of the 6 issues, 5 and 6 seem to be the toughest to find and the most expensive as well. Chicken or the egg, you know? That said, we did a lot of books. Like I said, I think we did 15 books this time out. And contrary to what we normally do, and like last week, I think I did about 15 books, and a lot of them were just in that hard to find pile. This time out, I'm only getting 6 in that hard to find pile. And that's the 2 Occupy Avengers, the 4 Zatannas, and those were all the hard to finds because there are multiple copies. Granted, a couple of them only had 2 copies available, but still, 2 is enough to put you in the hard to find. Can't even say they're all hard to find and expensive because those Occupy Avengers books are pretty darn cheap. Even a couple of the Zatannas are not that bad price-wise, but a couple of them are expensive. But they are just hard to find for this week. So if those 6 are the hard to find, that means this big pile, 9 copies, both Ghost Razors, The Age of Ultron, The World of Wakanda, the 1 Occupy Avengers issue 3, both Abe Sapiens that I pointed out, and then those last 2 Zatanna covers, all either had only 1 or none. Most of them had none, I believe, out of this bunch, which was surprising. I think more than half of them, I think 5 out of the 4 had 0 copies, which is outside of the norm for when I do this. But regardless, I still feel pretty comfortable with all 9 of these, giving them the Ghost moniker for right now, because there's only 1 or none out there right now. But that being said, hopefully you enjoy that. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Like I said, if you have any of them, tag me, share. I'd love to see them. I'd love to see your collections. I'd love to see the things you find, you pick up, things you might have had for a while. Again, I just like seeing comics. I love talking comics. Hopefully you like going through this stuff with me. Thanks again for stopping by. I appreciate you all. Having fun doing this. Got more stuff coming to the channel. We got the live show coming up tomorrow. Another tax show coming up live on Wednesday. Last week we had that fun Nerd Libs. Maybe we do it again. I don't know. We got all kinds of stuff that we can do on our live shows. So hopefully you guys are enjoying it. And let me know, like I said, in the comments. And let me know by hitting that like button, making sure that you're subscribed. Because I know a lot of you are watching who aren't subscribed. So if you are watching and you're not subscribed, just do me a favor. Just subscribe. You won't regret it. I got plenty of good stuff coming your way. So that all said, thank you all. I appreciate you all. And I will see you guys soon with some more content.